I brought out my supplies for feed. We're injector fertilizing the half-acre garden. This is the injector right here. We run water through it backwards up into the system, and it sucks out of this bucket. A few minutes ago it was 4 inches taller. It was right up to the top, so you can see it's actually working. And what I do is put a big gurgle of Thrive in the bucket and a handful of Epsom salts. It's very affordable. 3 scoops of 20-20-20. Fertilome dissolves so easily. Sometimes we use the high phosphorus. And then I have a bucket from Steve Regan of liquid iron. AgriFeed iron chelate. And we put 1 gurgle of that in there, just a big gurgle in the bucket. We do that once a week and suck it all down. Maybe do it twice if you think it needs more iron out in the grapes in the early summer when it's hot, turning hot. You know, the leaves will turn yellow, and it might help to either put more iron in the soil this way, or you could spray the leaves with a topical spray of this solution of liquid iron or Epsom salts. Just have to be careful to make sure their roots are nice and damp so that you don't burn the leaves. And follow instructions on the products. But this will suck all the way down. It'll go down the main line that way and the opposite direction over to the 60-foot rows of grapes, 60-foot rows of raspberries on that side, and then we have blackberries and raspberries on this side. Nothing else is planted yet. We have black raspberries or black caps on across the way there. And the entire system is connected to this filter, which allows us to feed and water from one place. Right there. All right, so it's been about 30 minutes and the bucket's 2/3 empty. Just a week or so ago, we started the water up and panicked when the gauge went a little high, and I turned the valve to the inlet the wrong direction and blew out our filter. So this filter is used. That filter doesn't work anymore. Look at the blowout. They can handle 40 or 50 pounds, but you know, there's probably 60 or 65 pounds on this pressurized irrigation system, and it was just too much for it. So we have a new system mounted in here. I would say new, old system. The gaskets are a little worn and they'll stop leaking. See a little bit of leak coming out here and there, but it seems to be working just fine. I was just going to mention, I put Epsom salts and, you know, Fertilome and things in there, but if you're totally organic, you might also just make your own compost tea or manure tea. And you can make all kinds of teas from mullein or kelp and things that, you know, have iron and fertilizer in them, and then just make a liquid and dump in the bucket and suck it up into the system. You don't have to use commercial fertilizers. This sure does a good job. We also amend the soil with sand when we start the crop, or with dairy compost. I have 30 yards of dairy compost, and it's about gone, but every year we bucket the dairy compost in around the plants. Last year this row didn't get much water, but you can see how well some of the rows do where we do get plenty of water. Yeah, over the years we've had a really nice garden. This is not quite half an acre of garden. The drip tape we use, let's see if it says on the tag on the outside. Let's see if it says right there. 8-inch spacing, 6 mil wall thickness, 5/8 ID, and looks like 5/8 of a gallon per minute per 100 feet at 8 pounds pressure. There's 10,000 feet on the roll, and we can go through that. You know, we change sometimes. Some of these rows have 2 runs. This double row of raspberries has 2 runs. We have a single row in the blackberries. These are Primark Freedom ever-bearing raspberries. A single row on the grapes. See this single row of drip tape down there. It's very flexible. I just installed this a week ago. It's just like Ziploc tape, only it's probably might be a little thicker, but it has emitters every 8 inches. And it just drips and soaks out like they do in the farms. This is a double row of raspberries, so we have drip tape on this side, and 16 inches over we have a drip tape on that side with a row of raspberry plants coming up on each side of this trellis. And then a single row for that row of grapes. Suffolk Reds and Concords and a couple of Flame Seedless in the back end there. The far blackberries are triple crown thornless. We have half of a row, 2/3 of a row of Titan Floricane style raspberries. And then a black cap raspberry. These are very prolific. Look at them go. They'll even be ripe in a week or two. Some of them. We have a very early season in 2025. Things are really going at it quite early. The leaves this time of year, this is late May, are just really pretty. Just dark green, gorgeous. But it's been 70 and 80 degrees, and then on the 1st of June, things turn 100 degrees really fast. And I'm thinking, you can see across there, see how some of those leaves are turning yellow in the Concords? So what happens in our soil is we have a lot of hardpan, this white rock, caliche white rock, hardpan is what it's called, and then the soil is higher alkaline levels, and then the plants can't see the iron in the soil. So you can either sweeten the soil with sulfur like some people do, or we just add iron to the fertilizer, which is soluble chelated iron, so that they can see the plants can see the iron. And if we catch it soon enough, then we don't get so much yellowing. Here, I'll go down and take a quick look at this end. Yeah, this might just be a spot in the garden where we have a little higher pH, higher alkalinity. And the leaves are starting to turn yellow, and of course that scares you and you want to deal with it. And sometimes we just come out here with a backpack sprayer and just douse everything with Epsom salts mixture dissolved in a 4-gallon backpack sprayer. And then what happens is, after the plants get used to the shock of the heat of the summer, then everything goes back to normal, and some of the yellow leaves that you see there will continue, and they'll just dry up and die, and the plant will send out new stems and more leaves, and then they'll be just fine. And every year we get past this. Every year we have the yellow leaves, and every year we get totally past it to where you can't even tell. Okay, so it's been about an hour and a quarter. And you can see that not much left to suck there, and we'll just turn this injector off. This injector line I can turn off, open up the main line, bypass the injector, and go back to filtering the standard way and continue adding water to the garden. We run this overnight. Okay, this is only run for a couple of hours, and we've soaked out 4 inches on this side and 4 inches on that side. But underground, when it runs overnight, it'll soak out 18 inches, to 2, sometimes I'd say 18 inches to 2 feet, side to side, overall. And then we only need to run this maybe every third or fourth day, depending on the temperatures. And the consistency of your soil, of course, depends on, if it's super hard soil, it'll soak out quite a lot. If it's super sandy soil, it doesn't only soak out a little ways because the water runs straight down through it. So we have pretty dense soil with a lot of clay. I add sand just to make it a little fluffier, but there's still a ton of clay down underneath. It's pretty dense. Over the years, we've added truckloads, truckloads and truckloads of grass clippings and composted dairy manure. We've added just a ton of stuff to this garden in 20 years. And so the soil starts to look pretty nice. In some gardens, you know, or in other areas of this garden even, we have a lot more rocks because this property used to be a pump house with road base. And over the years, we've picked out 1 million rocks, 2 million rocks, more than that. We pick rocks. I pick rocks every time we're in the garden. We go out with a bucket of rocks, and it's just turning out really nice. And then we don't pay as much attention to the far side where the corn grows, but here with the grapes and the raspberries and the berries, blackberries, boysenberries. We've had boysenberries and marionberries right here. But for sad reasons, probably climate related, the marionberries and the boysenberries didn't do too bad, but they were super thorny. But the marionberries, which had the most wonderful flavor, they would come up and grow their canes in the summertime, but in the wintertime they would die and we would have to start over every year. And so they just weren't hardy enough to grow in the Boise area. Now you can see these blackberries. It's the end of May, and they're already blooming on last year's canes, the Flora canes. There's already fruit on the blackberry, on the Primark Freedoms. They have a crop on last year's canes, and then they send up new shoots like this, which bear starting in late summer, and they go till it freezes. And then those canes, these new canes that bloom or that fruit later this year, will also do that again next spring. That's an everbearing or primocane style blackberry. Anyway, we have tons of fun with the garden.